I wanted to talk to you about an aspect that I thought was very interesting is that this book, even though there's these small little vignettes, um, I still was able to imbue into a lot of it as a reader. It reminds me of that phrase, I think it's in one of your American Imperium poems, The Rhapsody of the Unattainable, where you're able to take something and then imbue into it. I was just watching Raging Bull as an example, and the scene where he's talking about his hands and how they're small hands and how he'll never be able to fight Joe Louis again, be the greatest champion of the world. That scene, I mean, you can imbue into it and you can think of our basic biology and how we're sort of confined to that. You know, some people are smarter than others. Some people are more talented. They're not able to write the Rhapsody of the Unattainable and then go past that. The fact, though, that this book, which has these tiny little moments like the bullfrog and the moon, and you can imbue your own purview into it, I think is rather amazing. It's not like the Mr. and Mrs. Bridge books, which were great little contained scenes with a lot of poetry to it. These ones were more playing off of each other and then also putting the purview to you and how would you do in this environment.
Yeah, I think it's a book that, like I said, is bleak, but it's something that is probably, I hate the term, but it's probably maybe one of my most accessible books, and even more so than something like a kid's book, because a kid's book, most adults aren't going to even want to read that. This is a kind of book that anyone could pick up. It's not filled with big words or big ideas necessarily. But I mean, it does have them, but it's not. It's not something where like you're looking up and you're looking at 1,000 feet of the White Cliffs of Dover, and how the hell am I going to get up there? This is just sort of landing onto a beach and just walking and seeing things, and oh, this is how it is here. This is this life. This is how it's going to be for this guy and me as I'm reading it. So it's a
What do
book.
you think of what do you think of Jess's idea about getting back into the body? She was talking to me about this and how she goes between high and low in her sentences, where she'll have a poetic sentence and then she'll have a character yawn or cough or laugh. You seem to still have that ability too. You'll have a character think about something and then go back into the body. And I think that is a constant throughout all great art. You also have, though, more than she does, the contrast of the humor, whereas she has that sparingly in books like The Vanishing Spider and Human Stuff.
Well, Jessica and I have far different approaches prose-wise. I mean, Jessica is I think next to me the greatest prose writer that I've ever read, but Jessica doesn't have the overall diversity. I mean, you compare a Norwegian in the Family to Bit of Golem, to the Anka to a kid's book, to Onely, to some of my short stories, to the true life format, to this book. I'm always looking for different ways to get around things. That's one of the things I've tried to push Jessica, is to push herself to write a bigger book and whatnot. Just not do these sort of smaller 70 or 80,000 word character portraits. As great as they are, you don't want to box yourself in. She has to move up to another level. Now she's already at a level that really I think only I've been at. And that's not to say that Moby Dick, you could say the one book that Melville has, Moby Dick, that's on or near the level of Jessica is that one. You could say that maybe about Ironweed, maybe one other William Kennedy's books. You could say that of
Ironweed. That's not the one I would think of. I would probably give Legs over Ironweed.
Yeah, or Legs. But and I've said to Jessica before, I said, I mean, there are a few writers that might have 4 or 5 books. You could argue Kurt Vonnegut has maybe 4 or 5 novels, but his novels that are great, there's Slaughterhouse-Five, and then there's a drop to the other 3 or 4 great novels that you could argue for him. Whereas Jessica and I, while there's ranking. There's not a huge drop. I mean, this book is not a Norwegian in the family. It's 1/25 or less the size. It doesn't have all the vastity of the characters and whatnot, but it's not trying to be. People sometimes in art, someone writes a masterpiece or they paint a masterpiece. How are you going to top that? Well, you do something different. If my masterpiece is, just to use Scorsese's example, is Taxi Driver, well, you don't have to repeat it. Goodfellas is far different than what the boxing one you just mentioned.
Raging Bull.
Raging Bull, which is different than Mean Streets, which is different than Taxi Driver. The problem with someone like Scorsese is it's been a quarter of a century, and he's lost touch with the commonality of what makes a film great or not.